Welcome to the Pittsburgh Steelers, Nichols, Kevin Fulch, and Dominic Davis. And goodbye, Lemonious-Craig, Jeremiah Moon, and Cordell Patterson. So, the Pittsburgh Steelers have just went out today and signed 3 new players to the roster and have cut 3 other players in corresponding moves. But first, before I get more into the new players' introductions to you, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news and updates. Also like this video. Now, let's get right back into it. So, usually when injuries happen at camp, the Pittsburgh Steelers bring in outside players to come in and try out for the roster. And then what ends up happening is the injured players end up getting released and the new players get signed, who they like. And that's exactly what happened, because yesterday the Pittsburgh Steelers brought in Fulch and Nichols along with some other players to try to make this team. And then today they were signed and those injured players were waived. So before I get into each player individually, let me just say Fulch should replace some of the practice snaps that Thomas Jones was getting before he got injured. And Nichols, he will provide some depth at the running back position after the Cordell Patterson release. And Dominic Davis was released earlier in the week to sign Chuck Clark, but he's now back to provide some depth at the defensive line position. So, enough with that. Let's just get into each player individually. And let's start off with Dominic Davis, because he entered the league as an undrafted free agent with the New York Jets in 2020. He then bounced on and off the Cincinnati Bengals practice squad and roster for years before landing in Pittsburgh in January. He stands at 6'2", 326 pounds, and Davis is one of the heaviest defense linemen on the team. He's appeared in 2 games in his career, and he just hasn't had the experience at the NFL level in terms of playing in actual games, and the Steelers, like I said, just released him earlier in the week and now signed him back. So now he's been on and off the Steelers team a little bit as well. But he's back and will provide some depth as of right now in camp, and he will try to fight for a practice squad spot or a final roster spot with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But he's going to need to show out in training camp and in the preseason, because already, as you could tell by the Steelers releasing him earlier, he is expendable. But let's move over to Fulch now, because he entered the league in 2024 as an undrafted free agent to the Carolina Panthers, and now he joins the Steelers as his 5th team since entering the NFL. 5 teams in basically 1 year. And Fulch, he stands at 6'3", 247 pounds, and posted impressive workout stats at his pro day with a 4.67 second 40-yard dash time, a 33-inch vertical, and 21 reps on the bench press. So he is a tight end, and Kevin Fulch is a player who is coming into a stacked tight end room. And he's coming in with Freiermuth, Darnell, Washington. He's coming in with Jonnu Smith there. He's coming in with DJ Jones still on the team, who they didn't release even though he was injured. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, they signed Kevin Fulch to the team, and it's just to provide some more tight end depth on the team, I guess. I don't really see a need for this other than him just replacing DJ Jones in terms of his practice snaps in training camp as like the 3rd string tight end, because right now he's a little bit injured, a little bit banged up, but I don't really see him sticking on this team. He may end up making the practice squad, but I don't really see that as well. But Kevin Fulch, he's going to be given the opportunity here to provide some film in the preseason, provide some film for the coaches in training camp, and kind of show out. And if he makes his mark, you never know what could happen. But Kevin Fulch is now a Pittsburgh Steeler as of right now. Now, let's move over to the next player, because Nichols comes to this team as a running back after Cordell Patterson just got released by the team. Nichols is a player who was a 7th round pick to the Green Bay Packers in 2023, but was waived/injured at the end of his rookie training camp before landing on the Philadelphia Eagles practice squad later that season. He was with the Eagles until last week when he was waived. He entered the league at 5'11", 220 pounds with a 4.61 second 40-yard dash time and a 37-inch vertical. He has not appeared in a game yet in his entire career so far in the NFL. And with the Steelers, he'll be wearing number 35. So he comes into this team after Cordell Patterson was basically just released yesterday. So the Steelers need to fill that running back spot. They brought him in for a workout yesterday, basically knowing that Cordell Patterson was going to be released. And then he was signed. So the Pittsburgh Steelers obviously view him right now as maybe the fourth running back on this roster behind some guys. He's going to have a hard time making this team, but you never know what the practice squad has in store for him. So he's going to have to work to make this roster, but at the end of the day, he's been given an opportunity now with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And now it's up to him to earn his position on this team. So moving over to the players that were released by the Steelers. Let's talk about them. And like I said, it was Lemonious-Craig, outside linebacker Jeremiah Moon, and also Cordell Patterson. And let's talk about Jeremiah Moon first, because Jeremiah Moon was a player who actually saw some time with the Pittsburgh Steelers last season in the regular season, off the edge. And I guess the Pittsburgh Steelers realized that they had too many Baltimore Ravens on their team. Deshaun Elliott, Patrick Queen just went on to sign Chuck Clark, so they decided to get rid of one former Raven. They just signed one this week and now got rid of Jeremiah Moon. But no, in all seriousness, the reason why he was released from this team is because he got injured. He got injured in training camp when in the last few practices, and he's probably not going to practice for quite a bit of time. So the Pittsburgh Steelers decided to waive him for now, sign someone else, and then maybe bring him back later on. Because obviously he's a player the Steelers are used to, they trust if they actually played him in games last year. So Jeremiah Moon, you probably will see him back with the Steelers sometime soon, whenever he's healthy. Now, moving over to the next player, wide receiver Lemonious-Craig. He is a player who actually stood out in practice, was actually going off in terms of all the reps that he was given, making sure he shows out and does all the little things. So it's a shame that he got injured with a little muscle injury, and he ended up being waived from this team because he was actually playing really good so far up in camp. But maybe he'll be out for a little while, and the Steelers decided, hey, we'll sign you later on down the road when you get healthy. But as of right now, let's bring in someone else and see what they can do. But Lemonious-Craig is a player who you should expect back on this team as well because he was performing at a high level before he got injured. But he's now off this roster, and another player who's off this roster is Cordell Patterson. I covered this yesterday, but it was just made official by the Pittsburgh Steelers today that they terminated his contract. And what that means is they waived him from the team, and they will save around $2.3 million for this upcoming season that they could use elsewhere. And he actually reported the releasing of himself because he posted on social media saying the Steelers waived the wash-up player, the old player in himself, Cordell Patterson. And that's what he announced. So it seems as though he's a little salty by it, the way that he said it. He also said that the Steelers didn't have his day off, which is a bad thing, which obviously other players get waived on their day off, so I don't really see that as a big deal. But he's a player who you really expected wouldn't be back after all the players that they signed at the running back position and drafted at running back this offseason in terms of Kenneth Gainwell. They brought in Caleb Johnson. They obviously have Jalen Warren still. They have Trey Sermon now. So they have these players that they brought in at the running back position, and you just didn't see a need for him. He also was a player who was complaining about his playing time late last season on social media as well. So it just seemed as though he's not a player who's all for the team. And he wants to be obviously playing, which is doable, and obviously you expect that. But the later stages of his career, you just don't see him taking over for the younger players when the younger players are better. He was a Swiss Army knife throughout his career. He's a good running back, kickoff returner, punt returner. He's a good wide receiver as well. But with the Steelers, he wasn't really good at one position. He was probably solid at running back, but that's about it. But he's now released to the team, off the team, and he did not participate in any of the camps, no mini camp and no train camp either. So this was an expected move. It's just a little bit surprising that it came this late into the offseason. I actually expected it pretty earlier. Anyway, he is now off the team. And just to kind of recap it, the Pittsburgh Steelers sign defensive tackle Dominic Davis, a player they released earlier in the week, but now bring him back. They also sign Nichols, a running back, to replace Cordell Patterson, and also signed Kevin Fulch, a player to kind of replace some of the DJ Jones snaps since he's injured. And then they also cut 3 players in those corresponding moves, which are wide receiver Lemonious-Craig, who's a little bit injured, offensive outside linebacker, Jeremiah Moon, who's also injured, and then also Cordell Patterson, who's just been terminated because they don't want him no more. So that's the update. Those are the 3 players that the Steelers signed. Those are the 3 players the Steelers released. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Out of these 3 players the Steelers signed, who do you think has the best chance to actually make this roster? And who are you most excited to see on the football field, in training camp, the preseason, and who do you want to make this final team? Also, what are your thoughts on the Steelers releasing these 3 players? Would you have kept any of them? Or is it just time to let them go and enjoy the moments while they had them? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Also, make sure you subscribe to this channel and turn notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news, updates, highlights, analysis, reports. Everything surrounding this team, I've covered it. Training camp is here, and I've covered all the highlights, all the sneak previews into camp that you can't find nowhere else. They're all on the channel, so go ahead and check it out. And with training camp coming up for week 2 starting today, I'm going to have it all covered for you with more highlights, more analysis on the channel. So stay tuned, turn notifications, subscribe to the channel. Also like this video, and until next time, I'll see you guys all later. That's it for me. I'm out. Peace.